Welcome to Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the biggest fintech and financial services news of the week that was. Disclaimer: this show is created purely for entertainment purposes and contains segments of sarcasm, satire, parody, and humor. Even if you don't think any of it is funny, the creators do not accept any responsibility or liability for the accuracy of any content shared and reminded you to always fact-check everything yourself. And now, it's over to your quizmaster.
Welcome everyone at Fintech Uncut, the quiz show with candid commentary on the week's biggest fintech and financial services stories with the wise guy, the other guy, and Judge Mary. That's right, my friends. The wild hair days are over. I went to the hairdresser. And well, maybe because of that or because I was in full preparation of Fintech Uncut, I missed the biggest news of the week. Otherwise, I would have seen my shares plummet to the level I never expected. Thank you, Silicon Valley Bank. But that's not going to be a question of the show this week. Nevertheless, it's time for business now. Quiz business. My name is Rico Kulbergs, your host of the day, and I'm here with, as usual, Andrew, the other guy, Forster, Judge Mary, Chris, the wise guy, Skinner. And my first question is, this week we read about someone or something that's in desperate need of banks. And it's not the Australian living 1,000 kilometers from the closest branch. Can you guess who or what it is?
You gave it away in the intro there, Rick. It's all of the startups. As a matter of fact, over 50% of all venture-backed companies in the USA have a relationship with Silicon Valley Bank. And since their shares have plummeted 60%, actually 84% over the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's much more by now.
It's 84%.
We have another day coming up.
That's it. It's got to be them. It's all the startups in America. They're looking for banks now. A massive run.
It is correct, but I expect another answer.
Yeah.
Well, there's quite a few celebrities who are looking for banks, like Prince Harry needs to have a bank to put all the money he's made from his new book. And Gary Lineker needs a new bank to, put all the money that he's made from a Twitter comment about the UK government and the Stop the Boats campaign, which he compared to 1930s Nazi language, which I'm sure has nothing to do with what you want to hear, Rick, but it's very UK domestic and, the headlines of every day here.
Oh, yeah, you are also very UK domestic these days. Can I ask you something? What's your relationship with Prince Harry? Because for some reason, he enters the show every week and I don't see him becoming a sponsor whatsoever.
Well, actually,
I was saying, Elon Musk, Prince Harry, it's the guys I drink with. I'm there, so.
I was going to say, surely a piggy bank would suffice for Prince Harry with all that spare change that he's made from his book sales, about 3 or something.
And when you say spare change, you mean it, spare. But you mentioned Silicon Valley Bank, and I think that's one of the biggest stories for me this week, which is the collapse of a bank I've known, and it's been around for over 30 years. And when you looked at the fundamentals, it wasn't actually about a bank that was speculating. There's been several banks that have been speculating, but Silicon Valley Bank collapsed this week because they basically bet the bank on mortgage-backed securities and the yield on those, and that's what failed. And they've ended up having to sell the bank.
Well, actually, and apologies that it's diverting from the real answer, which we'll give in a minute, but picking up on the Silicon Valley Bank, in one of their I don't know whether it was a press release or just something that they said the reason why they were trying to liquidate some of their assets was because they are preparing for a mass extinction event of startups this year. And that was really, really telling, where they're the bank for startups in the USA, and they are publicly expecting a mass extinction of startups. So people in startup world, geez, you've got to get your numbers right because money ain't going to be that easy to get hold of over the next couple of years.
Can I ask you, Andrew? We're friends, right? Can you tell me that a week earlier next time?
Yeah, well, so getting back to the question, I think that Chris Skinner is looking for a new bank because I don't know whether you saw that he had a bit of a meltdown on Twitter because his own
Again?
bank won't let him buy any more crypto. They've stopped all of his transfers out to Binance, I believe. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. So is it something to do with people and crypto needing new banks?
I'm not sure it's that because in the UK, going back to being domestic focused, the Financial Conduct Authority, the regulators, stopped you depositing any money on Binance or crypto exchanges by law. So all the banks have just said if you're trying to use those services, then it's blocked. But another bank failed this week, and I suspect this might be what you're getting at, Rick, which was Silvergate Bank, because talking of crypto, Silvergate is one of the major banks that was being used by a lot of the crypto community, and after FTX, it's still sort of the ripples in the water, going out, and they collapsed, and in fact, they've brought down a lot of the cryptocurrency values with them.
I think it's all related. When we look at both Silicon Valley Bank and Silvergate, the UK financial stocks yesterday dropped by quite a large percentage. So it's having a ripple effect through the traditional banking industry as well.
Of course.
I mean, if you look at between Silicon Valley Bank and Silvergate Bank, HSBC and the other mainstream banks' share prices have also flattened. Yeah. Because basically there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the system right now.
No, there's so much fear. I'm starting to get the emails for some of the investors like, keep your money at this bank so you don't, make the problem worse. But yeah, it's been a dark week, I would say. Maybe this is our heaviest news thing we've voted on so far. Well,
we had Christmas sweaters.
Christmas sweaters, and some of us did a fashion show. Others
yeah, right.
Still have to do that.
Quite big.
Reminder.
No, but I agree with you. This is, and I'm afraid it's gonna be like the kind of news that we'll be discussing more in the coming weeks as well.
Yeah, it's grim. Points. Chris, slight advantage here. You get a 9. Andrew, you get an 8. Strong beginning for answers.
Nothing for Rick.
No,
Rick,
nothing.
Rick always gets a special star. Yes.
Next question. Can you guess one of the biggest misconceptions in fintech according to a recent study in Belgium that was not really related to fintech?
I think that's me then. You're always talking about Belgium because you live there, and I'm talking UK because I live in Poland. But the similarity between Belgium and yogurt?
No.
Yogurt has a culture.
Oh, Bird, vicious smile.
I know that's bad, but Belgium is known as the most boring country in Europe. I mean, it's got Brussels full of bureaucrats, and apart from that, it's just flat. There's not much else. And if you add to this that Belgium's not really a country, it's actually French, German, and Dutch. Northern Belgium is Flemish, whilst the south is Walloons, which I always find funny as that rhymes with balloons. So maybe it's that the biggest misconception is about the word fintech, which doesn't translate into Belgium because it has it's not German, French, or Dutch.
Well, it probably works better than Polish because fintech comes from financial technology, and if you translate that, it's financiële technologie. So I'm pretty glad that you live at the other side of Europe, Chris.
But I think Chris is onto something there, because living in Europe, anything fin related is Finnish. So I think that there's a wide misconception amongst the Belgian public that fintech means Finnish technology. fintech. You know, the Finns make good technology.
Or maybe it's the Germans say it's Fintech, which the French then interpret as Weintech, which is therefore, to do with Bordeaux and Grand Cru wine or something.
These deviations from the question are going nowhere.
Well,
Yeah,
you
going
asked,
nowhere.
you said it wasn't really related to fintech. So coming back onto it, I think that the region of Flanders, who are currently trying to increase their credentials and their credibility in the space of financial services, are wanting to rebrand fintech as Flantech, Flanders technology for the financial services community. So,
flan is a kind of pie.
Details.
Are we not getting on the right thing there? That serves you right for asking Belgian questions, though.
Definitely not right. This one surprised me. So
I thought, Andrew, that with all the shows that we have on Belgian banking and tech related news, the after work, the breakout buys, you should know better.
Well, I think I do, because there was a great report released by Ghent University, actually, about the Belgian people's lack of interest in technology. So you said it wasn't really related to fintech, but the key thing is that it is related to fintech because, of course, fintech is all about more technological use, so going mobile, online, and all of this. But the truth of this report is that the youth specifically, their interest in digital technology has declined year on year, and it went down from 84% to 70% in 2022 in the youngest age group. And the biggest notable point that came out of this was the lack of digital skills. People might be aware of the technology, they might play on their phones, but they actually haven't got digital skills. And more than a quarter of all of the Flemish people feel that they are addicted to their phones. So they actually want to disconnect because they feel that they've got an unhealthy obsession with them. And that could actually have an impact on all of the fintech's efforts in the future if people start losing interest and don't have the digital skills to be able to use the tools that they're putting out there.
I would say that's just because they live in Belgium, which is the most boring country in the world. But apart from that, it's probably more to do with a trend you can see worldwide. Because one thing that snuck through this week is Mark Zuckerberg is dropping the metaverse. They've lost $24 billion in the last 2 years in terms of Meta's investments in trying to build the metaverse, and it's just not paying off. And so they've now switched to a much sexier area called artificial intelligence, would you believe? Which, we shall see.
So the company will soon be rebranded into A.
I think
like
that
half of the name of the trend. Metaverse going meta, AI becoming
Zuckverse.
Anyway, what are the points, Mary?
or maybe the verse sucks.
No,
whatever.
I'm fascinated by this because I'm obsessed with Gen Z. I'm like, what are they doing now? And I and counterculture things, and
Is it Gen Z or Gen Z?
Gen Z, right?
I'm British.
It's we pronounce it Z.
Well, let's have a battle.
You're Polish, Chris. You're Polish.
But I just feel like, that's wild. Here, I don't know if this is true in your countries, but like the budgeting system, putting it in envelopes, has been trending again among like Gen Z. It's just curious patterns. Yeah. Okay. Points. All right. This was a good round too, but like last round was extra informative, so I gotta give you lower points, but still like applause to you both.
Poor Andrew.
Chris, you have received 7 this round. Andrew, 5.
But he got the answer.
I'm not.
Yeah, but I was more fun.
Yeah.
You're just hoping for a ticket to Chicago. All right, question number 3. You know the boiling frog syndrome? A metaphor describing how small hard to detect annoying changes in the environment can accumulate into a big threat. If not detected on time, these changes lead to a dramatic catastrophe you can't avoid anymore. This comes from the urban myth that if you put a frog into a pot of boiling water, it will instantly leap out. But if you put it in a pot filled with pleasantly tepid water and gradually heat it, the frog will remain in the water until it boils to death. Which fintech seems to be bathing in hot water already, according to this week's news?
Beat you. Just wanted to say that the boiling frog story became famous in my world because Charles Handy produced a book in the 1980s called The Age of Unreason, saying that a business that doesn't adapt to change can find itself boiled like a frog.
Is it Polish?
Why the boiling frog story is actually not an urban myth, it's actually true, is that frogs are cold-blooded. So what that means is that if you put them into water, their body temperature adapts to the temperature of the water. So you can put them in freezing ice or boiling water, but you need to do it gradually, and their body will just adapt to whatever the temperature is until eventually they can be boiled or frozen. And frozen frogs is very impressive in French areas, including southern parts of Belgium.
That author you referred to, is it Polish?
No, we don't eat frogs here. We eat everything.
No, you referred to a book. The author, is he Polish?
Oh, sorry, no. Charles Handy is a British business sort of guru from the 80s. He's written many books.
Yeah.
But The Age of Unreason is the one that started the boiling frog story about business.
So he's not from your country.
It depends what country I'm related to. I'm British, European, a global citizen, and every now and again a fruitcake.
All right, Mr. Fruitcake, let's get back to the question.
So I think that the fintech that is in boiling water at the moment is, we spoke about them on the show last week, it's Railser. Yesterday, there was an announcement that came out that said that they've gone into bankruptcy protection at the moment under a new consortium. So there's a new owner, it's a shareholder consortium, and they've gone into bankruptcy protection so that they can continue trading at the moment. And given what's been happening lately, I don't know whether they're just boiling and they're going to be boiled to death at the moment. Let's space waiting to be seen.
Well, it kind of builds on Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. You know, Railser, I thought with Nigel were very stable and they're a unicorn doing well, and suddenly they off the rails or Railser. But it could equally be Klarna. I mean, Klarna hit the headlines this week because they're making $100 million a month of losses, and a lot of people say that's not exactly a good thing, and yet the founder of Klarna, I think his name's Simonsky, was on stage at a conference in Stockholm this week and said the media are actually unfair, saying how can you burn $100 million a month, because the investors come to us and say we believe in you, we think that you're worth $50 billion based on your growth ambitions, and that means that investing $1 billion a year is a 2% dilution. It's not that crazy. I kind of sit there and say not sure about that, Mr. Simakowski, I think is his name.
I'm going to give you an extra tip. I'm talking about 3 frogs here that jumped in the water and quickly came out again.
Rick, what a tip.
We're talking about multiple. It was, of course, International Women's Day this week, and with having a wife, 2 daughters, and 4 sisters, I don't like the concept of International Women's Day because I think that every day should be Women's Day, and I don't say that lightly. I take a strong stand about equality, particularly in the workplace. And there were a lot of tweets around the underrepresentation of women in financial, specifically within fintechs, with quite a few people saying fintech is an industry built by men for men. And we're still saying that, even though the fintech industry has been around for a while, and it is a very sad state that we still don't have enough representation and enough diversity within the products and things being produced by fintechs. So if you're talking about boiling water, I think all fintechs pretty much should be in boiling water when you look at their at the very least at their gender diversity, let alone the rest of the diversity spectrum.
Although Innovate Finance did release a really good report this week about the power list of fintech women, so check that out.
I will check that out.
I'm guessing the only other thing I could think of would be related to maybe the German fintech startup. Well, they're no longer starting up. They're fully formed near enough. N26. But when I say they're fully formed, they're a very weird company in that I've bumped into them a few times, and the German regulator BaFin, along with the Spanish regulators and others, are saying that they don't have the right KYC onboarding processes, and that's always been a big question. And then this week, the chief risk officer, who's recently left, leaked to the press an internal memo about their executive team, of which many of them are claiming it's a dysfunctional company run on a culture of fear. I particularly took exception to their founder, who was interviewed by the FT a couple of years ago and said that profit is not one of their metrics, which I just think is ridiculous. So maybe N26 is in deep trouble, or we shall see.
Yeah, bingo. If profit wasn't the metric, what do you remember what the metric was? How they were defining that?
Fear.
Fear. Oh.
Or fear, uncertainty, and doubt these days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this isn't good. Points? Do I do points now? Okay, I feel like we all had interesting facts to answer this question.
Maybe one bonus question.
What?
Maybe one bonus question.
One bonus question?
Yeah.
What's the
Who
bonus?
was the last frog in this story?
And you're both at 6-6 right now, so this would put one of you ahead. Game on.
Was their chief risk officer. He is the most recent one to have gone. And more importantly, he's one of only 2 people in the organization that actually have the regulated license to be able to operate a bank.
And it was already the 3rd frog that left the pot in 1 year.
Yeah.
And most importantly, his name is Kermit.
That's a gross incorrectly thing.
Why do you call me Kermit? My name is Gross.
All right, Andrew got that extra point. 7, yes. Andrew, Chris 6.
All right, next question. Some time ago, and it's actually quite some time ago, the Fugees didn't sing Ready or Not, Here I Come, You Can Hide, Gonna Find You and Take It Slowly. Ready or Not, Here I Come, You Can Hide, Gonna Find You and Make You Follow Me. Based on this week's news, who could have sung that?
That was your best song yet, Rick.
There was no whiskey involved.
You Can Follow Me. It's got to be our friend Elon Musk. Have you noticed that when you go on Twitter now, if you're not following him, it's like he's there anyway. Doesn't matter whether you follow him or not. He's in your Twitter feed. So you said, gonna find you and make you follow me. It seems as though that must be his algorithm change now.
Yeah,
I know,
right.
it's interesting because haven't heard the Fugees reference for quite some time. And the band's original name was the Refugees, and they shortened it to Fugees on the basis that refugees is a little bit debatable, particularly as we know in UK news this week about the Stop the Boats, which I already referenced with Gary Lineker. But what I found interesting is that Wyclef Jean, who was one of the leads with the Fugees, could sing and rap in 5 languages: English.
Is it Wyclef Jean?
Hmm?
We call them Wyclef Jean.
Jean
in Belgium.
Ouais.
Jean, John.
Jean. Come
Whatever.
on, Chris.
Yeah,
That's his Polish. That's his
I'm a
Polish
Brave fan,
thing.
Jean, Jeannie. So Wyclef Jean. If you want the French, Flemish interpretation, but he could rap in English, Spanish, French, German, and Japanese.
Can't
And
decide whether that's a bonus point or a subtraction.
We got
point.
ourselves a short.
Japanese, my God, I did not know that. But your rap sounded like it could have been any overhyped fintech pitch to a VC. I'm going to find you and take it slowly, yet ready or not, because most of them launch way before they're ready. They have no monetization plan. And they're going to find them and they're going to take all of the VC's money without ever reaching profitability because their whole plan is just based on churn and burn. So, yeah, I think it's startup pitches to VCs. They probably could have sung that. And for bonus points, Chris Skinner actually blogged about what's hot and what's not today, and hot and not overhyped fintechs, I think, is not hot on your list, wasn't it, Chris?
Well, I mean, it was interesting on the what's hot, what's not, which is a theme at Finovate next week, where I'm doing a keynote. Just throwing that in. But TechCrunch did a fantastic in-depth article asking 7 venture capital investors what's hot and what's not. It's behind a paywall, so difficult to access, but what came out of that is anything to do with the office of the CFO, treasury and workflow, B2B payments, etc., they think is hot. And what's not is a lot of the consumer challenger bank companies like N26 we just spoke about. So I think we'll see some struggle in that area.
No surprises there.
So I'm not sure, ready or not, here I come, you can't hide would apply to the VCs. It sounds to me more like the regulators in terms of, you can't hide from the regulators. And that's what a lot of these challenger banks are discovering because their AML and KYC processes are pretty awful.
It's more controversial than that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the regulators, but authorities. I don't think you can hide from the authorities, particularly not the Chinese authorities. And if you poke your head above the parapet, you might be disappeared. We saw Jack Ma disappear, and now we've got, I can't remember his name, Bao Fan.
It sounds like a German regulator.
Yeah, but not Baffin, Baofan. He suddenly disappeared for a period of time and then reappeared again with no explanation other than he was answering some questions. So I think that the Communist Party have got a good track record of coming after you whether you're ready or not, if you're in China.
I do think, though, that we shouldn't underestimate that statistically speaking, it's a lot easier to get lost in China than to get lost in Belgium because it's so much bigger.
But there's a much better song about I was lost in France.
Oh, please don't sing it.
I'm not gonna. That's it. I'll sing it better than you.
Well, now I want to hear the song, so that will be a follow-up.
I was lost in France. It's well, what was the name? It'll come back to me
next week.
Next week. Well, Andrew,
was it Bonnie Tyler? It might have been.
No, don't sing Bonnie Tyler. Don't ruin that for me.
Well, maybe.
Mary, what are the points?
With the points, okay, so Andrew won that round, and I'm going to award him with the higher points on like that earlier round. All right, Andrew,
800.
7. No, he does need 800. Andrew 7, Chris 5.
Oh,
now it's getting closer. Chris
that's
still
interesting.
slightly ahead.
All right, next question, my friends. XXX isn't about value, it's about values. And that's a tagline from a company the XXX is a company that you have to guess, that clearly didn't understand the word values. What am I talking about?
N26.
No.
Klarna.
No.
Revolut.
Could have been.
Elon
Bill?
Musk.
And not Prince Harry.
Could have been any
I like
of them.
Prince Harry.
Actually, old news, very old news, but a company whose values included communication, respect, integrity, and excellence in their company report was Enron. So talking about people that don't understand the word values, yeah, I know it's old news, but that is one. But that leads me into, good segue into, I think there's a lot of companies that are doing a lot of greenwashing, and there was a brand new report from the Corporate Climate Responsibility Monitor about how many companies, big everyday names, and I won't name any of them here, but I'll put the link to report in the show notes, are greenwashing by achieving carbon net zero within an accelerated time simply by paying carbon offsets, which is solving the wrong problem. So they doing all sorts of magical accounting to offset their impact, but they're actually not becoming greener themselves. And in some cases, they're only improving their true green credentials by about 30%. Instead of the 90% or so that they need to improve them by to achieve genuine carbon net zero by the targets. So those are companies that don't appreciate what the word values really means.
True. And I was thinking about greenwashing, but it was in fact not about greenwashing.
Oh.
What I'm referring to.
Yeah, it also depends what you mean by values in terms of when you look at ESG, there's a rising anti-ESG movement. And, part of it is because the measures of ESG is not just environmental, it's social and governance. And so Tesla fell out of the ESG 300 list of Standard & Poor's because their internal governance is quite racist, apparently, and within Tesla. And various other factors meant that it didn't get the tick boxes. But the headline that jumped off the page for me this week was the story about Echo or ECO. It's a cryptocurrency company that provides a digital wallet. They do more than just crypto, but the main thing is their crypto wallet. Actually, they're related to Signature Bank, which is the failed bank that we mentioned earlier. And they're backed by Andreessen Horowitz and other heavy hitters. And they did a blog post that they deleted very quickly, but the blog post basically said that the Federal Deposit Insurance Scheme, the FDIC scheme, is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Most of their customers are not bothered about it. And this is where, for me, if you're a bank, you have to get a license under an insurance scheme that guarantees the money won't be lost. So in Europe, the scheme that we have guarantees if you have a bank license, then you can deposit up to 100,000 euros and it won't be lost. In America, it's up to $250,000 per account. And to say that the FDIC scheme doesn't matter when they're comparing themselves to Goldman Sachs and Wells Fargo is a bit of an out there comment. And in fact, in particular, they have a whistleblower internally who's saying they were looking at moving the money from the banks that they deal with to BlockFi, Genesis, and other decentralized financial protocols to get higher returns. And I think that's why that became a huge issue, particularly when you've got FTX and Terra Luna and Signature Bank and all the other things that we're talking about this week.
Here's the thing, there was a lot going wrong in terms of transparency, like transparency wasn't there at all. I was also surprised the company is called ECO, but I didn't find any other reference to environmental initiatives whatsoever.
Nothing to do with environmental.
And I can imagine that if you ask consumers on the street, they probably are not aware about that deposit guarantee scheme, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to have it when things go wrong.
You know, at Bankrate, we used to have like FAQs about, you know, how this insurance works or whatever. And like anytime during like a recession or better, you know, a harder economic time, people were really Googling this. So it seems like that drives them to care about how they get their money back if their bank failed.
Okay.
But yeah, these fintech companies, there's like so much confusion, and people are getting like destroyed over things like this. Points.
Just for the points, Mary, I mean, the point you're making there is a really important one, because if you look at how people have been using crypto in particular, that or other schemes, they put them into unregulated, unlicensed companies. They lose their money and then go, WTF?
Yes.
Get my money back. And they can't. And that's when the rubber hits the road, that they realize, oh, these guys are actually completely unregulated. It's the Wild West.
Yeah, and it's like, it's never, I mean, there's no one where that would be a good outcome for it, but it seems to be a lot of people who would suffer more than, you know, someone wealthier. All right, I feel torn here on the points. I'm gonna phone a friend. Rick, do you see someone winning this round more than someone else?
Yeah,
Who?
there was one who answered the question.
Remember that answering the question right doesn't guarantee more points.
Well, I would say we give Chris a 3 and Andrew a 2. So he's still winning, but relatively speaking, it doesn't make a big change.
All right, I'm down. Let's do that.
I'm glad somebody else is keeping track of the points here, because I have no idea where we are. We're close, I think.
The next question is...
Doesn't this mean that Mary asked the next question, as you were the judge?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank goodness I have it pulled up. Okay, here's the question. This is an upsetting one too. Okay, I read about a not so pleasant Christmas gift from a bank to the client this week. What happened?
It's very useful.
Thank you.
I think that this must be somebody's picked up on my story about my own bank's crappy loyalty and rewards program. You know, that's a crap. They are absolutely rubbish. They've got over 20 years of data on me, a lot more than that actually. So they should know I'm a motorbike rider, scuba diver. I love EDM music. I go to concerts and all. And yet their loyalty and rewards program gives me access to museums and historical sites. What the hell? That's the worst kind of present you could ever give me, and it doesn't generate any damn loyalty whatsoever. So was it a story about my rant about my crappy bank's rewards program?
Nope. Mary, can you see and hear what's happening here?
I can, and
We have one guy living in the UK, and he's not giving a Christmas answer. He's clearly not from the UK. He must be African.
I mean, it's March. Why are we talking about Christmas? We should be talking
Wait,
about
I'm an
Easter.
immigrant.
Hold
What can I
on.
say?
Yeah.
Because British
bunnies.
always love Christmas.
Score right now is 30-29. Chris is leading by only 1 point. Just
Well, I don't think the headline would have been about Andrew's specific issues. I mean, it's probably more to do with, you know, maybe the bank took a withdrawal of a few $1,000s from a customer's account as a Christmas gift to their management team to increase their bonuses.
Yeah, because they all love their fat cat bonuses, and the banks. It's why we've got a bunch of bankers, haven't we?
Why is it called Fat Cat?
Tell me, is this something that we don't know?
I feel a joke coming.
I feel it.
Well,
I
no,
feel it.
I think it's because a fat cat can't jump. So, you know, they just stuck there in their chair, and that's it. And I was amused this week because Griff Rhys-Jones, who's a UK comedian, is doing a tour, and he wanted to call his show "The Donkey's Bees," or "The Dog's Bees," if you prefer. And he said they can't do that because it's a rude word. So instead, it's "The Cat's Pajamas." And I was sitting there going, "Why is it the cat's pajamas? Why is it Fat Cat and Cat's Pajamas? I mean, what's up with the cats? Why is it cool for cats?"
I don't know. And then there's
No.
cool cats.
No idea. That's gone down a tangent. And
Or
so
not
getting back to
podcast.
getting back to worst. Well, don't know about worst gift, but worst banks. I was reading a blog earlier on that states that there's the worst bank in the world is Starbucks.
Yeah.
Starbucks, we all know, isn't a bank, but Starbucks have over $1.6 billion in outstanding gift card balances. So actually, people unwittingly are using Starbucks as a bank by leaving their money on their gift cards, and they've got hundreds of millions every year that people just simply don't, they write them off. People don't claim their gift card balances. So, a not good gift to somebody could be a Starbucks gift card, because that's helping Starbucks bankroll a massive deposit in the bank.
That's not related to Christmas. And the only thing I can think of related to Christmas this week was an old age pensioner who went away for Christmas, and when she came back, found that her power, water, telephone, everything was shut off because she hadn't paid bills, and the bills should have been paid automatically. And it turned out that the reason is she had a joint account with her husband and had phoned the bank to say, my husband's died, can you take his name off the account? And they actually said that she had died and wouldn't talk to her anymore. Anything to do with that one?
Absolutely correct.
That was rather astonishing, that story, but it just goes to show human error, because she had spoken to a human. But once they had deleted her from there, she struggled to convince them that she was still alive. And they wouldn't talk to her because their record said she's dead. I mean,
and more than that, I in the reporting of this, I thought it was intriguing because, a lot of the fintech guys, including myself, talk about how cool it is that we have apps, but she doesn't use apps. She doesn't use online banking. She struggles with even the voice systems on the telephone call center, and to get to her nearest branch, because they've all closed down, she has to take 2 buses. And this relates to last week's discussions we were having about banks being 1,000 kilometers away, or
the first question of this episode.
Yeah, it's just, it makes you realize when you look at individuals and their stories that we're not all digital, guys.
We're not all digital, and this is like a sad thing that happened. I can't imagine like emotionally what that must feel like. And that's separated from like dealing with the stakes there are super high. I just mean emotionally, like trying to figure that out would be horrible. So we ended this we started here on a sad note. We've certainly ended here on a very sad note, but there's still competition going. And I have to say, Andrew, I'm sorry, Chris did win by 2 points actually. So Chris won.
I haven't scored yet.
What?
I haven't scored yet.
I took back the authority.
You don't have the authority, Rick.
Did you give him bonus points for his Christmas tree in the blurry background?
That's what's in Chris's
If you haven't heard the
background.
story, there's a lady called Jackie Weaver who's become famous after a Zoom meeting in Britain. And if you haven't heard of her, it's all about you don't have the authority. So Google it, Jackie Weaver.
All right, Mary, since you became the judge of the show again, and we are at the end of it, can you share with everyone who scored highest?
Oh, well.
Oh, that was Chris.
Yeah.
That was me.
I'll share it again. Chris won, but just by a little bit. So more competitive.
Thank you very much. It was a great show. Quite a long show as well. Thank you all very much for listening or watching our show. I cannot wait for more international news coming soon. If you like our show, make sure to register or subscribe on your favorite podcast channel to make sure that you are the first to know about a new episode. If you're a big fan, have a look at our merchandise, buy the shirt, buy the pullover or the cup of coffee, and spread the news of Fintech Uncut. This was the 15th episode. We hope to entertain you, your colleagues, your friends, your connections and followers, cats, rabbits, and dogs very soon again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.